So we're on the top of Gimel Amar Aleph by the two Kisvei Kodesh. In a year Nidachas, if they're Kisvei Kodesh, you can't burn them with the other possessions, but you can't they can't be used anymore, so they have to be put away. So Mastis the like Rabbi Eliezer, the Tanya Belezer Aimer, Kol Yer Sheyesh Ba'afilu Mezuzah Achas. Any city that has even one mezuzah in it, ain't an asir nidachas. Very difficult. Ir nidachas sounds like one of these things that shalei hayav alei nivra. You remember all the difficulties. You have to get a hasra and edim for each individual person, not just that they were avodah zarah, but also that someone was maces them, that two people convinced them. And also, but if you have even one mezuzah in the whole city doesn't get destroyed according to Belaza. You should burn the city, and all of its possessions should be burnt, entirely destroyed. But you can't destroy mezuzah. It's also to destroy the very kedusha. Mezuzah is kaddish. So this Tana holds that it goes the other way around. Since there is a Sefer Torah or a mezuzah inside of the Nidachas, it's impossible to destroy it. You can't destroy it, and therefore they're off the hook. So this is back in the Mishnah. It's not really Reb Shimon. Reb Shimon said, first of all, there's a din that if you do an Nidachas, it's treated as a important oila. And then it continues, the pasuk says, "It's called you bring everything into the middle of the city. So after it's called shalala, everything. It should be as a everlasting pile. The ashes of the things that were burned should be left there. The pasuk continues, it shouldn't be rebuilt. Zok the Gemara. Ganas to Pardesim. Leisasa Tanis Ganas to Pardesim. I'm sorry, the Mishnah continues. Rabbi Gamliel says, when it says that Leisasa Leisivna Oid, it means you shouldn't make it even, you shouldn't even replant the area. You shouldn't allow to make gardens and orchards there. Rabbi Kiva Aimer, Leisivna Oid, Lekamaisha Haisa and anything. If he disagrees, he says you can allow an orchard and a garden to be built there. All it means to say is that you can't rebuild a city with structures. So Dr. Gemara, let's say this machlekes Rabbi Kiva and Rabbi is about whether you're allowed to, after this is destroyed, where the pasuk is saying that you can't allow it to regrow with orchards and gardens. We know the rule generally is that a klal prat, prat. If you have a general rule and then a specific, it has to be exactly like the specific. That's the general rule. And over here we have a klal. It says generally you should leave it the way it is. Then it says leisivnoid, you shouldn't rebuild it, which is a prat to say don't build it. So one might say this is a klal prat. It should only be that you can't rebuild it, but you could put up an orchard. It's a raya to not like Rabbi Elazar, not like Rabbi Kiva. But maybe Oven's rule. Oven's rule says that we always say that a klal prat is limited to the exact circumstances of the prat is only by a typical klal prat. But we have a klal where the klal is an essay. It says you should leave it as a pile. And then there's a prat which says, and don't rebuild, so that's a lois essay, then it's not treated as a klal prat. The Mar Islay de Rabavin, the Manda Amu says that this is not a klal prat, and therefore it's not treated, it's not limited to the case of binyan. He would say, Rabbi Kiva would say they're both going to be, if you say Yeholek Rabavin, then it's not done nice a klal prat. So it means in general, you can't let anything regrow there. Not necessarily. Everyone holds like Rabavin. So therefore, it seems to be like Rabbi Kiva that you shouldn't allow anything to be rebuilt there.
Yeah, like basically.
Basically, was one who said. Sorry.
Yeah.
Well, it's saying like Rabbi Yisrael Glili, who said you cannot allow anything to be rebuilt there. Zak the Gemara, but over here there's a specific limud. When it says lesivne oid legami masha, that's mashma. You can't rebuild anything at all. Masav oid lekamasha hoisa. So the pasuk itself, it's debatable. They're arguing about whether the pasuk is means to say that nothing can be rebuilt at all. The city cannot be rebuilt. The pile cannot be rebuilt, but it can be made to be ganis pardes. Tanraban, hayuba ilanus tlushin. If there were trees that were cut down, asurin, those are also they're considered the possession, the shul of the ear, and they have to be destroyed. Muchubar, and if they're still attached, mutarin. Then they're going to be mutter, like we said before, by the sayer, by the hair, that it's only those things that are tlushin, that are free to move around. Let's say one of the person's hair, it doesn't get you don't have to cut off the hair of all the people in the area dachats and burn it because it's mechuber to the person. And the same thing would be the tree. The tree is not going to get the din of shal. Shal ir acheres from a different city, bein tlusha bein mechubar and asa. Whether it's talosh or whether it's mechuber, it's going to be asa. My ir acheres, what's this ir acheres? Amar Chizda yurichai. There's a special rule that Yeshua made after the conquest of Yerichai. He said he made a klala, he made a cherem that you're not allowed to, you have to destroy Yerichai, and he said that you're not allowed to take anything from it. So over there, it's going to include even a city, even a tree that's still attached to the ground. The city will be a cherem, will be condemned to Hashem. Made a klal, and anyone who rebuilds the city of Yerichai, as Yerichai, B'chayra Yisadena, someone who builds a city in contravention of this klala, this cherem of Yeshua, he will build it. He will lay the foundations, and when he lays the foundations, his bechar will die. Ubetzirai Yatzav Dalseh, and as he continues building it, when he gets to finally putting up the doors, his youngest son will die. That's the klala, that's the cherem that was put on someone who rebuilds Yerichai. Tanya, lo Yerichai al shem Yerichai, lo Yerichai al shem Yerichai. This cherem on Yerichai is, first of all, you can't build Yerichai itself, even if you call it a new name, and you can't build another city and call it Yerichai. There's a person in Chayil Beis Eli who was at the time of Achav, the wicked king. He built Yerichai with his son Aviram, his Bechar Aviram. Aviram Bechar Yista. He was the foundation. What happened at the time of the death of his Bechar Aviram? Ubeshkuv Tziroi Hitzav Dalseh. This curse was carried out by this person named Chayil when he built Yerichai, another city, and he called it Yerichai. He had this curse take place on him that his oldest son died by the foundation, and his youngest when they put up the doors. Tanya Bavirim B'Chayrei Rasha Le'Haylei Lomad B'Shkuv Tziroi Haylei Lomad. So it's hard to know exactly what this question is. It says, I'm sorry. It says in the Brisa, the Brisa says that we understand that he couldn't have understood this from his oldest son, because he didn't know why he was dying. So maybe it just happened to be like that. But he should have learned by his youngest son. And the Gemara asks, what does this mean? The Gemara asks, first of all, in this brisa, it says, "Ba'avir b'chayre Rasha lehaylei." His b'chayr Avir was a Rasha. He had no way to learn. The Gemara says, "Avir muskov ma'ava." They were his sons. What did they do that they called a Rasha? Why is it calling the son a Rasha? So the Gemara says that's not this. So we misunderstood what the brisa was saying. Hachi kama ba'avir b'chayre This Rasha Chayil, who was violating the Cherem, should have realized when his oldest son died, that what would happen to his youngest son. So he should have stopped building, but he didn't do so. So that's what the Bryce is saying, that he had reason to understand what was going to happen, and he ignored it. So that's the Bryce's taina. Sagt der Mann, Masha Shneman be Avira Bechayre, any Adesh Skuf Tziroi. Gemara asks if it said already that his oldest son died with the building of the first part. What does it have to say? The second one was the youngest. It's understandable when he finishes it. Who else is there to die? What does it have to tell you that this Skub was the youngest one? So it's coming to tell you that these weren't the only two children. There were other children in between, that they were all dying in between. Achav, Shushbina Hava. Achav and this Chayil, this Rasha Chayil, who rebuilt Yericho, was a friend, Oile Rasha, Oile Shchena, with Achav was another prize. There's another Rasha. Also, Iyuv Elio, Lemishal B'Shleima Beitamya. Achav and Elio came at the same time. They came to be Menachem Avel by to be Menachem Avel by this wicked Chayil who rebuilt Yericho against the Klala. Yosef Amad Dilma Kimilet Yeshua Hachilat. Is it possible that when Yeshua made his Klala his Cherem, Lo Yericha al Shem Yeriches, Lo Yeriches al Shem Yericha? He said, so Achav said maybe the reason why this happened is because of the Klala, and the Klala applies even though he wasn't rebuilding the actual city of Yericho, but since he was calling it Yericho, that's why it happened. Amalei Elio in. Leo said that's exactly right. That's exactly what happened. That's why his sons died. Amalei, the wicked Achav said to him, Hashtalu Tasa de Moshe loy kamakaima. Moshe himself made a klala. He said about the Yidden that you're going to go do a lot of averis. And Hashem is going to get angry at you. And he's going to stop the heavens from sending rain. So Achav said, Vahu Gavra, I myself, he's referring to himself, like we saw before, he set up Avodah Zarah on every single sada and every Menachem. We have some over here. If you found, I'll call tell him. He placed on every single furrow. He placed it Avodah Zarah, Shabakle Mitra, the Mazel, and he didn't allow the and still the Shabakle Mitra, the Mazel Miskid, lay. And still the water's coming. The rain hasn't stopped the rain to come. So Moshe Rabbeinu had cursed that if he didn't be Avodah Zarah, the rain is going to stop, and the rain is still coming. The Tosfos the Yeshua Talmida Mekayma. Is it possible that Yeshua's klala is going to be Mekoyim? So this is obviously he was saying apikoursis. Miyad v'yoyim Elio hatishbi mitayshbe gilad chay Hashem Elokei Yisrael im yetalu matar. He made a shvua. I'm not going to allow the rain to come. I'm going to show this Achav, boy rachmi. He davened to Hashem, but hopefully it cleared the mitra. The Hashem handed over the keys of rain to Achav, to Elio. The Kamva he got up and he left. Vayidvar Hashem elav lema lech mizeh so upanisa lecha kedma v'nistra benachal kiryasa. So Elio made a klala that he applied that the Rebbeinu Shem Moshe Rabbeinu's klala should take effect because of the avodah zarah of Achav, and the rain should stop, and because of what Achav said, the Rebbeinu Shem told him you have to run away because Achav's going to now want to kill you. So he said, go hide yourself in Nachal Kiryas. And every day the ravens would bring him food to eat. Where do they bring the food? They would bring it. They would take it from Achav and bring it to Elio. But after many days, the valley dried up. There was no water because Elio, with the keys to the rain, had stopped the rains from coming and it was causing a drought. Since the Rishon saw that this was causing tsar to everyone, sure, Eliyahu had to show up Achav, but it was causing everyone else was collateral damage that they're caught in the middle. The Rebbe Shalom came up with an eitzah how to get the rain restarted. He sent Eliyahu to this Isha Balas Abayis, this woman who was the Balabasta, and her son got sick and died. So boy Rachel Eliyahu, she asked Eliyahu, she was hosting Eliyahu, she asked Eliyahu to revive her son. So Eliyahu asked the Rebbe Shalom to give him the key to Tchias HaMesim. Amri lei. So Rebbe Shalom said back to Eliyahu, Shlosh mafteches le nimtzru l'shliach shel chaya v'shel kshamim v'shel Tchias HaMesim. I never hand over the keys of three things. They're never given over to anyone. I keep those in my own rishus. And those are the Tchias Shel Chaya, of keeping people alive, of who gets born and who doesn't, the Shel Kshamim, and of rains, and Tchias HaMesim. So he was asking, and he had already gotten the key for Kshamim, and now he's asking for the key of Tchias HaMesim. So Dr. Mara, so the Rosh said back to Eliyahu, it's not going to be proper if there are three keys that you should have two out of the three keys, and either bunch of them left with only the one of Chaya. I see Ha v'shakal Hai. He took away. So the Bnei Shalom said, if you want the key for Tchias HaMesim to revive the child of the person you're staying by, you're going to have to give back the key of Matar, and that's what he did. The Mersham told Eliyahu, go to see Achav, and then I'm going to give the rain. It means that the Mersham had gotten back the key for Matar, and therefore it was no longer by Eliyahu. What is the muscle of Eliyahu like? Like someone who locked the door and he lost the key. Not sure exactly. Eliyahu had closed the sharim, he had closed the gates of Matar, but in the end he lost the ability to control it because he gave the mafteach back to the Baruch. He had to be the one to open up that gate. So the Gemara. Darish Rabbi Yossi b'tzipari. Abba Eliyahu, captain. He said Rabbi Yossi, as we're going to see, he used to get visits from Eliyahu, and Rabbi Yossi said that Eliyahu was a captain because he got so upset about what Achav did that Achav said that the Yeshua's chayrim is useless because Rebbe Shalom doesn't even lead to Moshe, that he took away the rain, which is a terrible gzeira on Gans Klal Yisrael. So Eliyahu, he wasn't saying he was a bad person, he was saying he's a captain, he was extreme. Have a captain. Rashi says, "Kos Allah v'amachai Hashem emiyah hashnayim ha'ela talumata." He was he got angry. He was a captain. He was makbid on. Sensitive is not really the right word. He's a what's it called? Kanoi l'dvar Hashem. That's what he was. He was a kanoi l'dvar Hashem. Now, have a rogel of Meisi Gabe. And Eliyahu always used to come to Rabbi Yossi and learn with him. 3 days, Eliyahu didn't come. But after the 3 days, Eliyahu came. Rabbi Yossi asked, how come you haven't come? Amalei captain Karasli. He said, you called me a captain and I didn't like it. Amalei, come on, the kakapid mar. This is very funny. He said to him, listen, I called you a captain because of what you did last time. But you're not showing up for 3 days after I called you a captain. That also shows that you're a captain. So see, Rabbi Yossi stuck to his guns. He didn't back off. He said, you look at yourself. Don't get insulted and think about what I said. Kolzman It should. The pasuk says that you're not allowed to take anything from the shul of the ir anidachas. It says la'yidbek liyadchu munacherim leman yashav Hashem echaroin apai. In order that the Bereshom should be take away his anger. Kol zaman shirshayim ba'olam charoin af ba'olam. The Torah says as long as there's rishayim in the world, there's charoin af. Zok Gemara, man rishayim. Who are these rishayim? It's not talking about the people of the ir anidachas, because they themselves get killed. They get skila. Not skila. They get saif. They get saif. So we're not talking about them. We're talking about not taking from their shalom. Amar Rav Yosef Gandhi. It's a reference to Ganovim. As long as it's Ganovim, the Rebbeinu Shalom remains angry. It's interesting. We saw that the Rebbeinu Shalom gets angry every day when the Malachim wake up and they turn to the Shemesh and they say the Shemesh is they basically say they mahal the Shemesh. They mispal to the Shemesh. Yes, the Rosham looks at it. That's a geneva of his Makkos on the world. Tanaraban, right? Let's talk about the Charayin of the Rebbeinu Shalom. Tanaraban, Rasha bala olam, Charayin bala olam. When a Rasha comes into the world, when there's a Rasha in the world, he brings anger with him. Shenema, Rasha. When a Rasha comes, gam buz, ve'im kolin cherpa. It comes in busha, and with the kolin, with the detriment, is cherpa, is embarrassment. Rasha oven min olam. When a Rasha leaves the world, taiva bal olam. That's good for the world. Takes away bad things. Shenema ba'avoid rishayim rina. When with the loss of rishayim is simcha. Tzaddik nifta min olam. When a tzaddik leaves the world, rabba olam. That's a sign that bad things are coming. The Bereshom took away the tzaddik in order to make room for the bad things. That's like Masu Shalach, right? We have to wait for him to die and for the end of a shiva for the mabel. Shenema tzaddik of it. When the tzaddik is gone, ve'ein ish asama leiv, and no one takes notice of it. Ba'anshei chesed nesafin, and the Anshe Chesed are brought to the Rebbeinu Shalom, Be'ein Maven, Kipnei Hara Nesaf HaTzadik. And they're not understanding that it's because of the Ra that's coming. That's why the Tzadik was taken. That's why the Rebbeinu Shalom brought the Tzadik to him in order to allow that he could finally do the Ra. Tzadik Ba'al Olam, when the Tzadik comes to the world, Toiv Ba'al Olam, that brings good into the world. Shenema, Zeyin Achmeinu Ma'aseh Me'itzmei Yadeinu. That's why I like the example of Noach. That Noach, when he was born, also he said, the Rebbeinu Shalom said about him, he's going to bring Nechama to the world. After this, both examples are from the same story. Hadinalach Kol Yisrael Yeshlam Chelek Slichalach Masechta Sanhedrin. Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov. I feel like every Masechta we finish is the whole thing. This one was a lot of different phases to it.
Basra and
You have a Makkos? Yeah. Basra was also, but this is just like Chelek. It was behind. Zok the Gemara. Zok the Mishnah. Ketzad Eidim Nasim Zayim. How do Eidim become Zayim? Now clearly this is very strange because we don't talk about how Eidim becomes Zayim. That's the Gemara is going to ask in a minute. We say that we know the din is that when someone Edim Zaymima, Edim that not where other Edim came and said that you're lying, but other Edim came and said you're with us in another place, and therefore the Torah would make a gzeira that such Edim are Edim Zaymim, and we do kasha zaman, we do to those Edim what they had tried to do. So we say, what's the case? Edim anubish ploinish hu ben grusha ben chalutza, ein ayrum yasa ben grusha ben chalutza tachta. The Gemara says, where is the case of Eidim Nasim Zayim? Meaning, what's the case of Eidim that are not Zayim? We don't apply Kasha Zama. What's the case? What first case is, if Eidim said that someone is a Ben Grusha Ben Chalutza, meaning that we saw that his mother was divorced before she married his father, who's a Kayin, and therefore he's a Chal, he's not a Kasher Kayin. We don't say if these Eidim are also Kaihanim Yasa Zeh Ben Grusha Ben Chalutza Tachta. They don't get the same din. The Gemara is going to ask why not. Like Garbayim. Instead, in place of getting And with kasha zamam, they get arba malchus.
Why don't you just say like case of the Eidim Nasas Zaymim and give a Pasha case where you try to take away $100, therefore we take $100 away from you.
So that the Gemara is going to ask. We're not talking right. The Gemara is going to ask. That's what I said.
I didn't say that.
Yeah, the Gemara is going to ask. We're not saying how Edom are nasim zaymim. We're saying how Edom are not nasim zaymim. Yeah, that's Gemara is going to be the Gemara's first question. You're asking the right question. Meidin anu besh pliny. Another example of this. Meidin besh pliny shu chayiv liglois, that he's chayiv in galus. Edom yiglas at tachtov. He said that someone killed someone b'shaygig. We don't say that instead the Eid Zaymim, now that he's found to be Eid Zaymim, goes into Galus, and he also gets Makkos. So before we get into what the reasons for these things, first we're going to ask the question, why are we saying Edim Nasim Zaymim? We're saying the unusual cases, say when our Edim don't become Zaymim. We're going to have in the next Mishnah that how we were going to explain exactly how someone becomes an Edom Zaymim. So that we say Hareu Zaymim and they get Kasha Zama. So it's addressed later on. So why are we saying over here, we're not explaining it over here. It's explained later on. Zak the Gemara, Tana Hasam Kai. Our Mishnah is really an extension of the previous Mishnah. Now you have to understand that the Gemara had the Mishnayos and Sanhedrin in a different order. So it's really the last Mishnah in the second to last parak in Sanhedrin, where it ended off, Kol haZaymim makdim la'isa misa, all Zaymim get the same misa as the misa that they had tried to give, Chutz miZaymim baskayinu bayala, except for the Zaymim of a baskayin who and her bayal. And we said a baskayin gets a special din of Sreifa, and her bayala gets the regular din of a Baal Eishus Ish, and he gets Chanek. So we say the Eid Zaymim doesn't get what they try to do, the worst. The Kasha Zaman should be that she get the worst thing they try to do, which is the Isha that she gets Sreifa. We say no, they gets like the Baal. We learn it out from a Pater. So now our Mishnah continues. There are others, an extension. Over there, you get only, you don't get the harsher one of the two possibilities. Someone who's made by a Bas Kayin gets the same as the man that he was trying to get him Chanek, he also gets Chanek. And our Mishnah continues, but there are other Edom Zaymim, Ketzim Nasim Zaymim, that they won't get at all has Kasha Zaman, but rather they get Makkos. Ela Makkos Abayim. Case that made a Mishpain Yishu Ben Gusha Ben Chalutza, Eno Emem Yasaz Ben Gusha Ben Chalutza Tata Valoikas Abayim. So why Taka? Now that we've explained why this Mishnah is here and why the Mishnah calls it seems to call it Esav Zaymim. It's not really Zaym Zaymim. Well, that's why is the Din Taka like that? Why does someone, an Eid Zaymim, an Eid who says that someone is not Ben Gusha, he's a Ben Gusha B'Chalutza, and he turns out to be Eid Zaymim, why doesn't he get Kasha Zama? Amu Shuman Levi, the Amakrav, Asisim Loi Kasha Zama. Should do to him as he tried to do. Loi, the Loi Lazari. The Pasuk says that you can only do Kasha Zamam to punish the person, but you can't do to him something that will also affect his children. And if you're going to say, because of Kasha Zamam, that he's going to become a Ben Gusha Ben Chalutza, his children will also not be Kayanim. If he's a Chal, his children will be Chalal. So, for the Gemara, okay. So the Torah says you can't do to his children. So why don't we just say, instead of saying that he gets Malchus, because it's impossible to impose Kasha Zamam on him, let's say we'll do Kasha Zamam, that he won't be a Kayan, but allow his children to be Kayanim. So Gemara, be eating Kasha Zamam lasas v'leka. You need to do Kasha Zamam lasas, and if you're going to make him a Kayan, but his children not a Kayan, that's not going to be Kasha Zamam. So Taisus asks the obvious question, but Malchus is not Kasha, is even more not Kasha Zamam. We're saying you have to do Kasha Zamam lasas v'leka. So Malchus is even worse.
That's one either, right? It's not getting contact.
So the Gemara answers no. That one of the terutzim the Taisus gives is that Malchus is a replacement Kasha Zamam. The time was geyser that in Malchus where you can't do Kasha Zamam, that we have a different Kasha Zamam that you do. This is a form of Kasha Zamam. So you impose that, and that takes the place of Kasha Zamam. But to do a partial kasha zamam, that's going to be chasarna of kasha zamam lasses.
How does Gemara have me that you can take kahuna away from a father, but not the children? You ever see
This will be the first case, but what's
right? Because I'm surprised we don't have. I was expecting the Gemara to say, not being on kasha zaman lasses like I was going to say that you can't have a client,
to do such a
right? Meaning,
okay, so why not? What's it do?
because
That's his punishment. He was punished. Why can't you look at it? There's an individual punishment on him, but it doesn't take away his kahuna. He's not treated as a kain.
As a Yerusha, you get it, but the person himself,
he's still his children are. I guess the question would be if he has children afterwards. It'll be a strange thing. But the answer would be that he's treated as a non-kain. That's his punishment.
I assume like a kain who marries a grusha or something like that, right? So he himself is the chal, right? He himself would. No, he doesn't. It's his kids are. We're going to see in about 1 second. Got it.
I'm saying that's not.
That's I thought the sugi.
That's the next part. You remember?
No, but I'm surprised we didn't go into it. Instead of being cautious, I'm lost his love leka. Instead, I thought tomorrow's going to be like, no, that's not a reasonable expectation.
No. Because it's individual. It could be an individual punishment for him. But the truth is that a kain who's born a ben grusha and chaluksa, he's born a grusha, he remains a kain. The Bapada, based on this rule that we just said, Bapada Aimer, he says it's from a different. I can prove it to you from a different reason. Why? Explain why he doesn't get kasha zaman, that he becomes a kain. Kavachaymer, umaha machal eina mischal. What does this mean? Hamachal eina mischal. This is what we just said. That a kain who's born a grusha, he himself remains, he's not a chal, he doesn't become a chal. Yet even so, the woman that he was born, like let's see the Rashi, hamachal is chal, kain hanoises a grusha, shemachal is zaroi. His children become mechalalim, he's mechal them. Ein hu atzim mechal min hakuna. He himself still remains part of the kuna. Haba lechal v'loi chila. This Eid Zayman. Now we're going to see later on that the din of Eid Zayman is only applies in a very narrow circumstance. It's only somebody who there was a Gemar din based on the Eidis, but you didn't yet apply the din. It has to be that there was a Gemar din, that the sentence was called, was announced, the verdict was announced, but it hadn't yet been carried out. That means if somebody said, if Reuven and Shimon, if Levi and Shimon say that Reuven killed someone, and Reuven had not yet had a Gemar din, then Levi and Shimon can't become Eidim Zayman. In addition, if Reuven had already been killed on the say of Levi and Shimon, and then they become Eidim Zayman, they also can't get Kasha Zamam. Kasha Zamam is only after the verdict is announced, before the verdict is carried out. So, Habal Chala V'Loi Chila, every case where someone says, we want to do Kasha Zamam, has to be that you didn't apply the rule, that it didn't yet, the verdict was not carried out. So we're saying over here, this person, these Eid Zayman, did not yet make the person they were talking about to become a chal. Ein adin shelo yischal. If we say a man who's born an isha, a kayin who's born an isha, he's machal his children, he himself is not machal. So certainly this person this Eid, who didn't even make him into a chal, ein adin shelo yischal, certainly he shouldn't be machal. So that's the reason why we don't do kasha zama, because it's a kal v'chaimer from the kayin himself. Since a kayin, if he's not he's not machal someone else, even though he's not machal himself, even though he's machal others, certainly the Eid Zayman who was not machal him can't be machal himself. Maskal Ravina asked him, how does all Eid Zayman? Uma cycle in an iskal, habal iskal loy sakal, and initial iskal. We're going to apply what you're saying, and let's say that about every person who says Eid Zayman. The person who said Eid Zayman, who said Eidus, and he caused someone to get killed.
Successful is
he was successful in his rishon. He himself then is precluded from getting the din of kasha zama.
Because
after Gemar din. So certainly the guy who's before Gemar din, if you're going to make such a kal v'chaimer, like you're trying to say from the chalal, from the kain himself, let's make that an internal kasha on the whole din of Eid Zayman. Elamai, we have to go back to what you said before, that that we have to say the original pshat, that it comes from You can't do something if it doesn't apply. You can't apply something that will go to his children. Okay, we'll stop over here. Lizzie, if anyone wants to, I think maybe I would try to learn tonight. Next